Between League of Legends and Dota 2, which MOBA is more complex? A question this broad has no good answer. Is the measure concerned with unique mechanics? If that was the case, League would be the most complex since many of its champions apply mark debuffs which are treated as unique mechanics. Does complexity instead measure macro gameplay? Dota wins in that department since lanes are fluid and roles are just a suggestion. Is it the skill ceiling of the heroes? If so, how do you even define a skill ceiling? Will any of these questions reappear in the video? Probably not, but while contemplating these topics and my life, I had a simple idea of comparing the complexity of heroes between League of Legends and Dota 2. Strap in, cause that's what we're doing today. There are two ways of measuring complexity. The first is a measure of the complexity of the abilities. One way to think about it is, how many pages does their ability description take up on the wiki? The other way to measure complexity is on the execution requirements. Sometimes a hero has a simple ability with not much to it, yet it requires some sweaty tryhard gaming just to play decent. For this list, I will fully ignore items, yes, even Aghanim stuff. It's an unfair comparison, since Dota's heroes can get 10 slotted in the late game. Just remember, these comparisons are all subjective. After liking my video, comment below if you disagree with my rankings. Ah right, rankings! Here are two lines, one for each game. I'll place heroes on here as we go, to show the least and the most complex of the lot. Starting us off, we have Wraith King. He has 3 passive abilities and a point and click. For the League viewers out there, I only mean passives that you spend skill points on. Dota doesn't have innate passives. Well, technically 2 passives, but one of his actives creates summons that you can't even control and act essentially as a passive DPS buff. The ability has a passive component, the active is essentially a passive toggle. It's a passive, okay? Moving on. Slightly up the totem pole is Ogre Magi. He has 3 point-and-click spells, and his ultimate is a passive. Lore states that the ogres are literally the dumbest sentient things on the planet, and this guy, he's got 2 heads, meaning he's barely smart enough to walk in a straight line. His kit reflects that perfectly. Now, when comparing the simplest Dota heroes to the simplest League heroes, we immediately see a major difference. Most champions in League have 1 innate passive, 3 to 4 actives, and 2 innate summoner skills, essentially 2 more spells available at level 1. There's a total of 7 abilities for each champion. So right off the bat, this whole part of the line, yeah, nothing exists here. There's a camp of League players that argue that summoner spells shouldn't be considered in the complexity of champions because they are not champion specific. My argument is that they act exactly like other abilities, and though not unique, effectively and without exception increase the mechanical complexity of every champion. Even then, you still have champions like Yuumi. How simple is she? Well, her parasite mechanic means that for 90% of the time, she doesn't even have to click her mouse to move around. Her spells are pretty generous in their hitboxes as well. If you want to see an in-depth comparison of her kit to that of Io, check out my previous video on the topic. Next up the list is Sona. 3 of her skills are temporary auras, including her nuke, which has auto-aim. Honestly, I love how she held my hand through my first dozen League games. Thank you, Sona. When talking about the average complexity of heroes in both games, you have to remember that the distribution sort of looks like a bell curve. So, as expected, most heroes will be close to the middle. For Dota, you start to see heroes with spell combos like Magnus and Legion Commander. And some illusion heroes show up that require micro like Naga Siren. In League, you start seeing mark mechanics show up, like seen in Anivia. Special resources start appearing like that of Gwen, and abilities start having extra parameters, like Haymaker from Set. At this point, you might notice a difference emerging between the games. Abilities in Dota, and in extension the hero kits, are a lot more simple. And though complex kits still exist, this trend towards simplicity skews the hero distribution very heavily to the left. Speaking of complex, remember how I mentioned two types of complexity? One from ability intricacy and the other from mechanical skill requirements? You'll see examples of both coming up. When it comes to simple abilities with high complexity, Nidalee is right up there. She has 6 basic abilities, with her ultimate mostly serving as a means to swap between 2 sets of 3 to choose from. Each of these is pretty simple on its own, but to play her well, all of her spells get spammed non-stop when clearing the jungle, forcing some really high APM even out of combat with enemies. Her damage is also very conditional around distance and timing. Another example is Draven. To keep up his damage, he has to run around catching his weapons after every attack. Everyone else is playing League, while this guy's playing Dance Dance Revolution. As for the complex spells, just take a look at Azir. His signature spell is to summon statues that do his ranged attack in melee. And then you can hop to the statues while firing them across the screen, and then just making a wall out of nowhere. The number of ways these abilities can combo together is way too much for me to explain, so please check out this pro gameplay instead. Right alongside Azir is Aphelios. His gameplay is among the more simple side, but his abilities, oh boy. This guy has 5 guns with different properties. Each of them change his Q and ult, and on top of that, they have ammo. Move over, Dance Dance Draven. This guy's playing Call of Duty. Now, hopping over to the Dota side, and we're gonna need to extend this line a bit. Okay, there we go. I want to start off with Invoker. What kind of spells should a control mage have? The answer is all of them. Invoker has 13 abilities. It takes 3 to 5 button presses to cast just one of his spells. Yes, his UI comes with a cheat sheet if you forget what they all are. Next to him is Meepo, a hero with a pathetically simple kit on paper. I mean, look, he has 2 passives. And look, there's Meepo again. And there. And oh no. Yes, these are all Meepo. They are all you. They earn gold and gain experience separately. They all share the same abilities, and if any one of them die, they all do. They are all one hero. Good luck in keeping track of your lane defense Meepo while you're ganking with a Meepo and leaving 2 or 3 others on jungle clear duty. Oh, well, that might happen. Third on our list of complexity is Chen. His signature spell is to take over a couple of creeps. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, you have to remember that the jungle creeps of Dota have spells too. So, to play a good Chen, you have to remember and to use the spells acquired from controlling a small army. This is Chen without any cheats. Dance Dance Draven? COD Aphelios? Please say hello to real-time strategy Chen. And finally, to round things off, let's look at Brewmaster. I just can't. Why don't we take a look at the wiki? Did you catch all that? Yeah, me neither. So, which game has the most complex heroes? I'd argue it's League, but Dota has some really wacky outliers. Now, if you were to ask whether complexity results in a better game or not, well, that's a debate I'll leave for Reddit to figure out. Can we all agree that both games are great? Peace, love, and friendship and all that? Oh shit, I forgot Lone Druid.